What's up, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Revive Outdoors. If this is your first time to our channel, just want to say thank you so much for stopping by. And if you are coming back, thanks for coming back. We are excited today to dive into all of the details of Meadow Creek Mount's new receiver mount. So if you are familiar with Meadow Creek Mounts, several years ago they came out with their rib mount that goes on the rib of shotguns. I have had mine since the day that they have came out, and I absolutely love the rib mount. It gives you an extremely wide field of view while still being able to use a red dot on your gun, especially for those that don't have one that is drilled and tapped but has a rib mount instead. You can just use his rib mount and clamp it down onto your gun and it's not going anywhere. But for this video, we're specifically talking about his receiver mount. It is a low profile mount that you can use for red dots to be able to get it low. The reason that people like receiver mounts versus Picatinny rails is because you can get your cheek down onto the stock of the gun and you don't have to free float it. And so a lot of times when you have a Picatinny rail, it raises it up pretty high and then you're not getting a really good cheek weld on that gun, where this receiver mount, being a low profile mount, allows that red dot to be more at the natural line of sight when you put that cheek down on that stock, and allows you to take aim without any issues. Now, if you are familiar with red dots, then you know this, but if you're not, then I am going to let you know that it really doesn't matter where your head floats in the air. It may help you aim, but as long as that red dot is where you want it on your target when you pull the trigger, it's not going to make that huge of a difference. So really, whether you have it on a rib mount, you have it on a Picatinny rail, or you have it on this low profile receiver mount, really at the end of the day, what matters most is what you feel comfortable with. So you just want to find that and dial that in and make sure that you're comfortable with it before you go out into the spring woods this turkey season. If you're like me and you also deer hunt, this can come into play when you are deer hunting and a lot of other different types of hunting. But on this receiver mount, you're going to see that it comes with several different mounting holes. And so what that is going to allow you to do is screw in and select based off of where your gun is threaded already. And so you're just going to slide this back and forth until you can line up at least two of the holes. It doesn't really matter which two holes you choose. The biggest thing is, with most red dots, the threaded attachment points, so these lugs that are located here towards the rear, are most likely going to be situated towards the rear of the red dot. So when you're putting this plate on, make sure you check before you install it permanently on your gun that this receiver has the lugs facing the way that it needs to for your red dot. Again, most of these threads of these lugs are going to be towards the rear, but just double check before you secure it down because you may need to flip it around. Also, it is not going to matter which two holes. So on this one, the two holes that lined up with it were the first and the third, and also the last and then the middle. You can play with it and move it forwards, backwards. You can put it on the back two holes on this gun, or you can put it on the front two holes. What I chose to do, because I love that increased field of view, is I just moved it forward and put it on those front two holes, because that is what I personally desire when I'm using red dot, is it further out. I've gotten used to that with the rib mount, and so I wanted to do the same with this one. On this low profile receiver mount that Meadow Creek has, we're going to throw a Burris Fastfire on here. That has been his most popular red dot that he has sold throughout the years. I personally, on my 870 where I have the rib mount, I use the AT3 Tactical. So if you're looking for a more affordable option, you can go that route as well. I personally just need it to throw a red dot up. I'm not really specific on a higher end versus a lower end. They all look the same to me. They throw that red dot up, allows me to aim better. One thing that I will say that I hope you have the same results if you've never used a red dot, you need to get one if you have missed turkeys in the past. Me personally, I struggle using a bead. Being in the military, I used a red dot a lot, and I used a scope as well. But when you get accustomed to using a red dot, then you get used to just seeing that dot, and wherever it is on your target, you pull the trigger. Well, with the bead, it's the opposite. You have to make sure you keep that head down and all you see is that bead. If you're seeing any of the barrel or the rails of the shotgun, then you're going to miss that target. So for me, I've always struggled with the bead going to that. Later in life, I've struggled with making a good shot. I missed a ton of turkeys beforehand, but since getting the Meadow Creek mounts, the rib mount, I have yet to miss a turkey. I think I'm like 20 turkeys in, and then with Revive Outdoors, all of our ministry hunts, I think we're in the 50s for not missing a turkey since we added the red dot. So a red dot is really crucial, especially for those that are getting up in age and are having trouble seeing as well as they did in the past, or maybe you're like me and you just are not good with the bead and you need to move over to a red dot. I can tell you this, you are not going to regret it. If you're a purist and you want to use a bead, that's great and wonderful. This video is not for you. But what I want to do now is I want to move over to putting the red dot on, and then we are going to shoot it. I'm going to show you the field of view, how it sits well when you get that cheek weld into the gun, and get all the details out there for you. Then we're going to put it on paper and get it sighted in. But if you have any questions, again, put those in the comments. But now we'll transition over to installing the red dot. Prior to starting this episode, I went ahead and installed the receiver mount. I just wanted to note that I did put Loctite on these two screws before putting it onto the receiver itself. So that may be something that you want to do as well, just to make sure it's not going to go anywhere. When it comes to installing the Burris red dot on here, you can see it's going to have these 4 lugs on the exterior perimeters, and then inside here where the threads are going to go, it's going to have those interior lugs. If you remember when I told you earlier that most red dots are going to have those threaded lugs to the rear, that way it lines up. So just make sure that when you're mounting that receiver mount onto the receiver that you're putting those threads towards the rear. If your red dot also has the screw holes to the rear. When it comes to installing this, one of the big mistakes that a lot of people make is that they over tighten the red dot. Therefore, I just wanted to mention that way you are aware not to over tighten them. And then another thing I wanted to point out is that Greg from Meadow Creek Mounts, they will include the proper screws and the bit for this red dot. As you can see, the threads that are here are very small, where the screws that come on the red dot are actually a little bit bigger. And so you just want to make sure that you're using the screws that Greg provided and not the ones that are in the red dot. And then you're going to just screw these down. Again, if you're like me and you do not have a torque wrench on hand, that is okay. Just err on the side of tightening them down just to where they're snug, but not over tightening them. That's probably the number one mistake that most people make when installing any kind of optic, is over tighten them. I had someone install a scope on my muzzleloader before I left for Kansas. I usually do all of that myself. I was just in a very big hurry, had a lot going on at that time, so I asked someone else to do it for me. They over tightened it and it broke the scope. So just make sure that you're not over tightening these, just get them snug. But if you do have one of those torque wrenches, make sure you use it. And if you don't, just make sure it's nice and tight, but not too tight. If you have to give any kind of force to it, it's probably too tight. So just make sure that you don't over tighten it and don't break anything. Now that you have the red dot in place, you are simply going to sight it in. With a red dot, it's very, very simple to sight it in. If you have something like I do, where you can lock this down and tight, all you're going to do is shoot, and then wherever your point of impact is, you're going to move that red dot over to that point of impact, and then you're going to be zeroed in. But just in case you've never sighted in a red dot, let's move over to the target and I'll show you exactly how to do it. When it comes to sighting in your red dot, it's very easy, especially when you have something like this, when you have a clamp device, because it's going to allow you to make that gun stationary while you make adjustments. So you want to take that first shot, and then you want to go back to the point of aim. Once you have this locked down on the point of aim, you're simply going to move that red dot over to where the impact was, and then it's going to be zeroed in. So very simple, should be a one-shot zero and then a second one to confirm. But if not, then keep making your adjustments and get it dialed in. The worst thing that you can do is have that opportunity to take that animal and not be dead on your zero and not be prepared. So make sure that you zero in the gun. We're going to do that here and show you exactly how to do it now that we've talked about it. Okay, I'm going to aim at the base of the neck and see what we get. Well, there's nothing like a gun being dead on zero when you put it on, but I'm gonna make a slight adjustment to it. So again, you wanna make sure that you're aimed at where you were aimed, and then you're just gonna make the adjustment to the point of impact. Okay, very slight adjustment. Now we'll go ahead and reload and take one more shot. Now all you're doing is just confirming your zero, making sure that you got it dialed in. This time I'm gonna aim right at where the beard and the body line meet. Money, it's dead on. Now this is not my shotgun, this is Barry's shotgun. So now Barry, if you watch this video, it's your turn to now take your TSS or your turkey loads, whatever it is that you have, and put those in this gun and make sure that red dot is on. I have sighted it in with birdshot, so I know it's good to go with birdshot. Now it's your turn to wear your shoulder out, maybe get a lead sled and get it sighted in. But that's gonna be it for the sighting in portion of this episode. The next thing I want to talk about is why this receiver mount, this low profile receiver mount, is so crucial to you having a comfortable setup on your turkey gun. So if you're someone who has used a bead in the past, well, you are used to getting your head down really strong into that stock and aiming. And so when you move to a red dot, if you're someone who's using a Picatinny rail, you've got the rise of that Picatinny rail, and then the red dot has to go on top of that. So what you are eliminating is the Picatinny rail with this low profile receiver mount that Meadow Creek Mounts has. And so it allows you to just sit that head down nice and comfortable and be right on that red dot, similar to what you would be with your bead. Of course, with your bead, you'd press down a little bit stronger, but with a red dot, you can just ease that head down and you're gonna be right in line with where your aim is. The biggest thing with the red dot, if you have not used one before, is wherever that red dot is, you are going to hit. So it doesn't matter if you're a little bit to the left or to the right, or your head's low or your head's high. Wherever that red dot is sitting is where you are going to hit. And so what's really important when you're turkey hunting is because you might be in some really strange positions sometimes, and as long as you can get that red dot on the base of that turkey's neck, then you are going to be successful. I hope you have enjoyed today's episode of Revive Outdoors, going over Meadow Creek Mount's new low profile receiver mount. Again, if you are like me and you need to put a red dot on your gun, but you're not really sure how, Meadow Creek Mounts has you covered. You can either use their rib mount or you can use their low profile receiver mount. And then they also have that Vortex Viper enclosed red dot now that you can mount directly to the receiver. So whether you're looking for the rib mount, the receiver mount, or that Viper, they are going to have you covered. Be sure to use code REVIVE for 10% off your order when you go on to Meadow Creek Mounts website, and they'll make a donation back to our nonprofit to support our mission of making a positive and eternal impact through conservation, which you can learn more about at the end of this video. But I sure hope you have enjoyed it. If you have any questions, put those in the comments. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode. If this is your first time to our channel, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about who we are and what we do. So Revive Outdoors is a Christian-based nonprofit located in Birmingham, Alabama, and we teach adults how to hunt. So our mission statement is that we make a positive and eternal impact through conservation, so through doing what we love. And the way that we do that is we teach adults how to hunt through a hunting 101 workshop, and then once they have those skills built in that workshop, they then qualify for a one-on-one mentored hunt with our staff. And while they are on that mentored hunt, we're going to just identify where they're at in their walk with the Lord and get them to take a next step. So sometimes that's towards salvation, getting involved with our team, getting involved with their local church community, or multiple other ways that they can connect spiritually. We also want to identify where they're at mentally and help them take that next step. So since 2020, we have seen 372 adults come through our entire workshop and one-on-one mentorship process, our entire mentorship program. We've seen 372 adults come through it. Out of those, we've helped connect 110 of those adults to mental health counseling. And then a little bit of a drum roll, come on. We've had 52 people come to know the Lord through Jesus Christ, and we cannot do it without support like you. And the way that you support us is obviously you can donate, but when you use these discount codes or you use these links, it is not only helping you get a discount, but it's also letting that company know you've seen our video and you want to support us as well. So when you make those purchases with our discount codes, it is going to let that company know, and then they are going to make a donation back to us here at Revive Outdoors. So we are all supporting our mission together. Since the 80s, hunting has declined 57%. So if you imagine 6 out of 10 of your hunting buddies being gone, that is how much it has declined. And our goal is to reverse that number. And we can't do it without support like you. We hope you have enjoyed this episode today. We thank you again for supporting our mission, and we'll see you on the next one.